Susan Boyle had not performed live in 6 years. After her stroke in 2022, most people assumed her career was over. Doctors warned her the damage might be permanent. The left side of her face wouldn't move. Her voice came out broken and weak. But something happened at the end of 2025 that nobody saw coming. A Hollywood superstar named her one of the greatest Britons who ever lived. A viral moment brought her back into millions of conversations overnight. And then, in February 2026, she shocked the world with a transformation no one expected. New hair, new energy, a new message for her fans, and a return to the stage that was already being planned. The question everyone was now asking was simple. How did this woman go from a hospital bed to the center of a global conversation again? The answer involves a 50,000-pound recovery, 5-hour daily training sessions, one promise she made to herself, and a friendship with a 30-year-old movie star that nobody predicted. Susan Magdalene Boyle was born on April 1, 1961, in Bangor Village Hospital, West Lothian, Scotland. She was the youngest of 9 children in a small, crowded house filled with noise and faith. Her mother, Bridget, was 47 when she became pregnant again. Doctors warned her that carrying the baby could cost her life. They advised her to end the pregnancy because the risks were high and frightening. But Bridget was a devoted Roman Catholic, and she refused. She chose to continue. When the time came, things went wrong. Susan had to be delivered by emergency surgery after serious complications. For a short moment, she was deprived of oxygen. She was tiny. She struggled to breathe. She was placed in an incubator while her parents waited in fear. Doctors told the family that the baby would never be anything special. Those words hung in the air. They stayed there for years. Because of the oxygen issues during birth, doctors made a mistake that shaped her entire childhood. They told her parents she had brain damage. In the 1960s, there were not many tools to question such claims. So the label stuck. It followed her into school, into classrooms, into conversations whispered behind her back. She had mood swings and moments of frustration, and instead of asking deeper questions, people blamed the diagnosis. Susan felt the weight of it, even as a child. She later said she always knew the label did not feel right. Her father Patrick passed away in 1997 at age 81, and her mother Bridget died in 2007 at 91. Neither of them ever knew the truth. It was not until 2012, when Susan was 51, that a specialist finally told her she had Asperger's syndrome, not brain damage. For more than 5 decades, she had carried a misunderstanding that shaped how the world saw her. School was not kind to her. Children called her Susie Simple. They laughed at her learning struggles and pushed her aside. The teasing did not stop at nicknames. It grew into daily cruelty that chipped away at her confidence. Even some teachers failed to protect her, which made the loneliness worse. The wrong diagnosis became a reason for others to treat her as less. The pain settled deep inside her and turned into anxiety that followed her into adulthood. Yet inside that shy girl was something steady, a voice waiting to be heard. At home, there was music. Her father Patrick had worked as a coal miner and served during World War II, but he loved to sing. He performed at the local pub in their community, and Susan listened. Her mother, Bridget, worked as a shorthand typist and kept the family grounded in faith and Irish roots tied to County Donegal. Susan found comfort in those sounds. When she was around 12, in 1973, she began singing at school and in her parish church choir. Teachers noticed her voice and encouraged her. Church became her safe place. Music became her way to breathe in, a world that often felt tight around her. In the mid-1990s, she sought formal training with vocal coach Fred O'Neill in Livingston. For nearly 6 years, they worked carefully on scales, breath control, and technique. He saw the strength in her mezzo-soprano voice and believed she could go far. She tried many paths before the world knew her name. In 1995, at 34, she auditioned for Michael Barrymore's show. She hoped it would be her moment. It was not. In 1998, at 37, she used her savings to record a demo at a studio in Scotland. She sang Cry Me a River, Killing Me Softly, and Don't Cry for Me Argentina. She mailed copies to record labels and television programs. No one responded. By 2000, at 39, she felt defeated. She stayed in Blackburn, singing mostly for church and small local audiences, holding on to a dream that seemed to be fading. But a dream kept alive by her mother's quiet encouragement would not die. In 2008, Susan was 47. Britain's Got Talent held auditions in Glasgow, and she applied with number 43212. She wanted to honor her mother, who had always believed in her. On April 11, 2009, she walked onto the stage at the Clyde Auditorium wearing a simple beige dress coat, facing thousands in the audience and millions who would later watch from home. When she said she wanted to be as successful as Elaine Paige, people laughed. The judges looked doubtful. Simon Cowell folded his arms. Piers Morgan smirked. Amanda Holden raised her eyebrows. The room expected failure. Then the music began. She sang I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables. Within seconds, the laughter disappeared. Her voice filled the theater. It rose strong and clear, carrying years of pain and hope in every note. By the end of the performance, the crowd was on its feet. Piers called it the biggest yes he had ever given. Amanda admitted they had been cynical. Simon smiled in surprise. That single audition aired to 11 million viewers in the UK and changed everything. The clip exploded online. Within days, it gathered tens of millions of views. By the end of 2009, it had passed 120 million views, becoming one of the most watched videos of the year. In less than 48 hours, an unemployed church volunteer became a global name. When her album I Dreamed a Dream was released on November 23, 2009, it sold more than 411,000 copies in its first week in the UK and 71,000 in the US in its opening days. It topped charts in 41 countries and eventually sold around 10 million copies worldwide. She became the oldest artist ever to reach number 1 in both the United States and the United Kingdom, with a debut album, a record confirmed by Guinness World Records. She finished second on the show to dance group Diversity, but by then, the world already saw her as a winner. Yet fame brought pressure. Tabloids dug into her past and questioned her behavior. On May 31, 2009, after losing the finale, she struggled to cope with the sudden weight of it all. She was admitted to a London clinic for exhaustion and anxiety. Paparazzi camped outside her small bungalow in Blackburn. Crowds gathered, tabloids printed daily stories about her looks, her habits, her private life. She had lived quietly for decades, and now her world felt exposed and overwhelming. Still, she signed a deal, released music, and stood on stages across the globe. In November 2010, she released her second album, The Gift, which also debuted at number 1. A year later, Someone to Watch Over Me followed and reached number 1 in the United Kingdom again. The same girl who had once been called Susie Simple now had 3 number 1 albums within 2 years. By 2021, she had sold around 25 million records across 7 studio albums. In 2013, she revealed publicly that she had Asperger syndrome and said the old diagnosis of brain damage had always felt unfair and that she finally understood herself better. Susan Boyle's life changed in a single night in April 2022. Her manager, Geraldine, found her with one side of her face hanging low, her speech broken into sounds that were hard to understand, and her whole left side too weak to move properly. She could barely talk, and she could not sing even a single note. The stroke had struck without warning, and doctors quickly realized how serious it was because the damage had reached the muscles that controlled her face and her voice. The same voice that had sold millions of albums and touched people across the world suddenly felt like it might disappear forever. Susan was 60 years old and lying in a hospital bed, trying to understand what had just happened to her life. Doctors warned that permanent damage was possible if treatment did not work fast enough, and the fear of losing her voice became almost unbearable. Still, even in those early days, she refused to give up. Within days, she had already started rehabilitation, because she believed that if the stroke had taken something from her, she would fight to take it back. Specialists told her she might never record or perform again. For someone whose life had been built around music, the thought felt devastating. She had sold millions of albums after her sudden rise to fame, and that success had given her purpose and stability. Yet now, even simple words like hello would not come out right. Soon after leaving the hospital in May 2022, she hired a private speech therapist and began attending sessions 4 times a week. The work did not stop when she went home because she practiced every single day for more than a year. Vocal coaches pushed her through long exercises that sometimes lasted 5 hours a day, teaching her how to control muscles that once moved without effort. She stood in front of mirrors, repeating sounds and words again and again, while slowly training her face to move evenly. Month after month, the strength returned little by little. By June, she had added intense vocal training that focused on the weak side of her face, using resistance tools and mirror drills, while carefully watching every small improvement. She practiced musical scales again and again, sometimes reaching 100 repetitions a day, and she kept a journal to record the slow progress from silence to sound. Physical therapy filled the rest of her schedule as she worked to strengthen her arms and legs. Her manager, Geraldine, stayed close by, cooking meals and helping keep the training on schedule. By early 2023, her speech had become much clearer, and one quiet moment marked a turning point she would never forget. On March 15th, she sang I Dreamed a Dream in private for the first time since the stroke, and the sound of her own voice brought tears, because it meant the hardest part of the journey might finally be ending. The entire recovery cost more than £50,000, all paid from her own savings. Yet the result surprised even the doctors who once doubted her chances. That proof came on June 3, 2023, exactly 14 years after the audition that first changed her life. During the Britain's Got Talent finale, she stepped onto the stage and joined the cast of Les Miserables to sing I Dreamed a Dream once again. Millions of viewers watched as she delivered the song with strength and emotion. Near the end, she shared the truth she had kept hidden for more than a year. She told the audience that she had suffered a major stroke the previous April and had fought with everything she had to stand there again. The crowd rose to its feet in a long ovation, and the moment quickly spread across the internet as people reacted to her return. Then came May 2025, and a message from a recording studio in London. For the first time in 6 years, she stood in front of a microphone again, recording new music, despite the warnings that once said it would never happen. She described the session as emotional and joyful, saying she had returned to the place where she felt happiest. The long recovery had given her a new hunger to move forward, and plans quickly began to grow around new songs, potential film appearances, and a return to touring. The world was watching again, but something else was about to bring her back into the spotlight in a way nobody expected. In December 2025, a BBC interviewer asked actor Timothée Chalamet, who was promoting his new film Marty Supreme, which Britons he felt were truly great. He named Lewis Hamilton. He named David and Victoria Beckham. Then he paused and added a name that stopped the internet cold: Susan Boyle. When the interviewer pressed him on why, Chalamet did not hesitate. He said she dreamed bigger than all of us, and that he remembered her 2009 audition like it was yesterday. He pointed out that her viral moment came at the very dawn of YouTube, when the world was first learning what it meant for an ordinary person to capture the attention of millions. She wasn't manufactured. She wasn't packaged. She was just a woman from Scotland with a voice that broke through every barrier the world had put in front of her. And for a young Chalamet watching from New York, that moment had stayed with him for 16 years. The clip of that BBC interview spread everywhere. Susan saw it, and she responded the same day on Instagram with a message that was pure and unguarded. She said it was incredibly touching, that she was very flattered, and that knowing her moment had meant something to him all these years truly humbled her. She wrote that we all start somewhere, with a dream and a bit of hope, and that everyone should dream big. What happened next was something no one could have scripted. Chalamet followed through on his praise, and sent Boyle her very own Marty Supreme jacket, the same one he had been wearing throughout the entire film's promotional tour. She received it, and told the BBC that it fit like a glove, and that she was looking forward to seeing the film on Boxing Day. Then, on December 27th, To mark Chalamet's 30th birthday, a video appeared online of Susan Boyle singing him happy birthday while wearing the jacket he had gifted her. The internet lost its mind. Headlines ran in dozens of countries. Fans who had followed her for 16 years and fans who had never heard of her before shared the clip millions of times. It was one of those moments that reminded the world who she was. Not the Susan Boyle of tabloid stories and cruel headlines. Not the patient lying in a hospital bed, unable to say her own name. The real Susan Boyle, warm, funny, gracious, and singing beautifully in a living room in Scotland with a movie star's jacket on her back. That energy carried directly into 2026. In January, she posted a New Year's message to her fans that showed her looking happier and healthier than she had in years. Wearing a cozy pink sweater and sitting beneath the framed records that had defined her career. She thanked her followers for their love and support, calling it something that meant the world to her. The warmth in that video was not performance. It was gratitude from someone who had come very close to losing everything and knew it. Then, in February 2026, she posted again, and this time the world stopped and stared. A photograph showed Susan Boyle with platinum blonde hair, styled into a chic bob with bangs, standing proudly in a black and floral football shirt. The shirt belonged to Street Soccer, Scotland, a charity that uses football to help people experiencing homelessness build stability and confidence. She wrote that she was proud to support the wonderful charity and that she had absolutely loved getting her hands on the beautiful limited edition shirt. The response from fans was immediate and overwhelming. Comments poured in calling her stunning, saying she looked the best she ever had, calling her an inspiration. For followers who had watched her journey since 2009, the image carried enormous weight. This was not the woman the tabloids had mocked for her appearance in those early years after the audition. This was a 64-year-old woman who had survived misdiagnosis, bullying, fame, exhaustion, stroke, and doubt, and was standing in February 2026 with platinum blonde hair and a charity shirt, glowing. The transformation sparked global coverage, with publications from entertainment news sites to mainstream newspapers running the photographs and noting how remarkable she looked and how far she had come. The Street Soccer Scotland connection also revealed something deeper about who Susan Boyle is when the cameras are not pointed at her. She had lived quietly for most of her adult life. She never moved far from her origins. Despite earning an estimated net worth of £22 million, she still returned again and again to her childhood house in Blackburn, because the rooms carried the past with her and history mattered more than comfort. Supporting a charity that helped people find their footing after hitting rock bottom was not a publicity move. It was simply the kind of person she had always been. And as 2026 continued to unfold, the signals of a full return grew louder and more exciting. New music was being recorded. The Chalamet friendship had reminded millions of young people around the world, people who had been children when she first walked onto that stage in 2009, what she represented and what her voice could do. Oasis had acknowledged her at their Edinburgh show the previous summer. The Pride of Britain Awards had welcomed her back onto the red carpet in October 2025, where she had appeared radiant. Every thread was pointing in the same direction. The woman who had once been told she would never be anything special was back at the center of the world's attention. Not because she had chased it. Not because she had reinvented herself for a younger audience or changed who she was, but because she had simply refused, over and over and over again, to give up. The girl from Blackburn who had been called Susie Simple, the woman who sent demo tapes to record labels that never wrote back, the singer who lost her voice to a stroke at 60 and spent £50,000 and thousands of hours getting it back. There is a reason. Timothée Chalamet, one of the most celebrated young actors in the world, paused during a BBC interview and put her name on a list alongside Lewis Hamilton. There is a reason a birthday video of her singing in a movie jacket spread across the internet in seconds. There is a reason that a photo of her in a charity football shirt in February 2026 made headlines on every continent. She dreamed bigger than all of us, and she is not finished dreaming yet.